Oh my God! They let you in here? I just
Okay.
looked at this. Who let you in here?
This is the high
What is
rolling
this?
room now.
Oh
All
my
right.
God! Get this guy out of here. This used to be a place of learned doctors, and now it's just no. I'm just joking.
Right.
Good to chat with you, man.
All right, we're live.
I taught
Hey
those
guys,
doctors.
how's everybody doing today? Welcome to the Space Q&A. Did you really just do the your own intro music, Brian? Or was that
What's
your
that?
phone?
No, I think that was. I was trying to turn on the stream too.
Oh, I got you. I thought that was your like. You know
That
what I
would have
mean?
been awesome.
That would,
All right, I'd like to welcome Brian. You head of product management. That's
yes,
correct.
head of product management here.
Okay. Head of product management, and Brian's working on all of these things, particularly the space and all the functionality and utility behind that on like a daily basis. Also here is Matt, the guild guy. Everybody knows Matt. Joining us for the first time is Doug, aka Falcon DW, who I happen to report to, and also runs the QA and customer service department. And he's awesome, and he's intricately woven into all of this too. So welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us here.
Hi there.
Awesome.
All right, and then I think the best thing to do is that we're going to talk about, clarify and discuss the information around the change from sockets to the new solution, and then we're going to open up the floor. We're probably not going to get too far into economy as we're still actively working on sorting out the best, and that will come fairly shortly with more sessions like this. But you guys can do your best to ask questions. Whether or not we're going to be able to answer them, we'll let you know. We'll just be straight and let you know. So I'm going to open it up to Brian to actually go through and give you the rundown on the new solution, which we teased with that the teaser video out there just a bit ago. So Brian, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Buck. So, just to be clear, what we did in our game is we changed the way that we essentially talk about how things connect, and specifically, whereas before you would take a utility NFT like a Forge and Armory and stick it into your space. What we've decided to do is make a design change to make it so instead of doing that, now you attach a utility NFT room to your space. So think of it as instead of taking this object called a Forge and plopping it down in the middle of your space, and suddenly you don't have a lot of room to put in all these other cool decorative NFTs that you find in the game, we decided to completely break apart that paradigm and make it so no, actually your space has the ability that you can fill it with whatever you want, and instead you attach utility NFT rooms to it. Now, of course, once we did that, we had to rethink how we were doing sockets, and our solution is that we found that we can improve the user experience by converting all of these sockets into what we call exits. Now, of course, before it took like 3 sockets to connect or to plop a armory into your space. So now we just changed it and simplified it quite a bit. So now it's just all space has a fixed number of exits, depending on its size, and players can just connect their utility NFTs or other space to space via these exits. What that nets out to, though, is that in general, because it now only takes one exit to connect any utility NFT to your space, rather than having a variable number of sockets to plop your utility NFT into your space. And what that ultimately means is that you will have more the ability to attach more utility NFT rooms to your exits, or sorry, to your space than you previously did for pretty much every rarity type. A simple example is, I believe our small rare space had 3 or 4 sockets. So, which meant that if you had a forge that took 3 sockets, put in the forge, and you're kind of done. Under this new system, the small rare space will have 2 exits, which means you can put 2 utility NFT rooms and attach them to it. So it's literally a 100% increase in the number of utility NFTs you can attach to it. Or you can put a utility NFT onto it and then stick another space onto the other exit. Now you can expand your personal metaverse in that way.
All right. You still there, Ryan?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yep. And
Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, and just if that's, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I think we really think that this change.
Uh-oh. Did we lose Brian?
Can
I
you hear
think
me?
he's back now.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yep.
Sorry, I think I cut out for a second, but I heard some beeping. I was like, that I probably got a disconnection. But anyway, so we think this change really benefits players as a whole because now they have a larger space to customize. Under the current model, let's say you wanted to deck out your Exalted large space with, awesome furniture, really cool collectible items, and then you had to like stick a forge in the corner. And we were like, that doesn't really maybe some people like that, but we wanted to disassociate this idea of all space having to socket in utility NFTs to be most effective. And instead, we're saying, hey, if you want to put in your utility NFTs, your forges and your armories, just attach them to your space. But if you want to decorate your space with and make it this awesome throne room or make it this awesome, headquarters, then do that. And I'm happy to answer any questions about these changes.
Okay.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Brian. It's Matt, the guild guy here. So, do you have an example of how you could connect a utility NFT like a forge to a space? Like, let's say I've got an epic space. What can I connect to it?
Yeah, great question. So, essentially, if you have a space, you can connect a number of utility NFTs equal to the number of exits, which basically means that, for example, if an epic space, let me back up and say, right now exits are completely determined not by rarity but by size. So if you have a small space across all rarity types, you always have 2 exits. So you can always attach 2 utility NFTs. If you have a medium space, you will always have 3 exits, so you can always attach 3 utility NFTs. And if you have a large space, you'll always have 5 exits. And we're still working on the large space, the exact number of exits. We're thinking 5 is probably the right number. But you'll always have 5 exits across all rarity types. If it's a large space, it will have 5 exits. Now, where rarity comes into play, though, is that, and this is why rarity is incredibly important still, is that as you have rare space, you can attach more rare utility NFTs. So all of our utility NFT rooms will also have a rarity, and it's like a pretty simple kind of greater than, or how do I describe it? It's a pretty simple system of like you can attach a utility NFT of equal or lesser rarity to your space. So Matt, to answer your question, if I had a mythic mythic large space, I can attach a mythic forge, a legendary forge, a epic forge, or a rare forge. But if I have only a rare space, then I can only attach a rare forge to it. Or in the future, when we release lower rarity forges, you can attach an uncommon forge or a common forge to it. So essentially, the rarity becomes much more valuable if you want to attach more higher rarity utility NFT rooms, and the size is dependent. It helps define how many utility NFT rooms you can attach to a space.
Wow. Okay, so that's super useful, and I'm watching the Twitch channel questions come in, and Brian, I'll be real with you, I'm kind of dumb. So if I were to summarize it, no matter what rarity of space you have, if you have small, it's gonna have 2 exits. If it's a medium, it's gonna have 3. If it's large, it's gonna have 5. And you can attach utility NFTs that are lower in rarity to whatever that
Or
space
equal
is.
to.
Equal to or rare. So
Yeah.
if you got a rare space, you're only getting rare utility NFTs. If you got a legendary, you can do rare, epic, and legendary. But I can't take an exalted Time Warden or Forge and strap that bad boy into a rare space.
Right.
Yeah. cool. And I see a lot of those questions. King Parent, I see you, jumping in on the chat too. Thank you for helping out there and everybody else in the chat. Thank you. Hopefully that answers some of the questions. I'm sure we'll circle back. Brian, thank you so much. And I'm sure we got more questions here.
Yeah. Technoman Surf, yes. So basically, instead of using sockets, we're doing exits, or you could look at it like connections. They did a good job of redesigning. As a space owner myself, this is a good thing for all space owners.
I think one of the things to focus on that I've been continuously impressed with about the development team and the engineers at Big Time is this was done with the player in mind first. Like, because Brian, jump in if I'm wrong here, but it was after going through a substantial amount of testing and creation that we realized this exit strategy gives more flexibility to the players than a socket method could.
Yeah,
If you had a
absolutely.
socket method, you could have leftover stuff, but this seems to really lock it down and give more flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way it used to work, you definitely could be stuck with this sort of hanging sockets. Where, for example, if you had a space that had 5 sockets and you wanted to put in a forge that took 3, and now you had 2 sockets left, and you were kind of like, well, I guess I have to stick a Time Warden in here, which took 2 or whatever it was. I forget. I mean, or no, Armory that takes 2. Or I could put in 1 Time Warden and leave 1 blank socket. Like, there are just so many iterations that kind of created these like feel bad moments for players when we were doing our playtesting. And we just thought, and on top of that, it creates a lot of uncertainty about players. Like, are they optimizing their sockets in the best way? And sure, maybe there's certain players that love to min-max that sort of socket game, but we thought that ultimately that just felt like confusing for confusion's sake, when it was much more straightforward to be like, hey, you know what, these rooms, they attach and they take 1 exit. So you just attach whatever you want, and you don't have to start doing socket math, is what we called it internally, where it's like, well, with 11 sockets, I'm basically doing algebra. It's like 3 times 3 is 9 sockets I'm taking up, so now I have 2 left over. What do I
Right.
put in there? Or 4 times 2, and then I have 3 left over, and it just created all these kind of hard to understand moments where players would be like internally, even like we were confused by what we were doing, where people were, oh, I wanted to do 3, oh, I'm out of sockets. And by changing this, you always know your number of utility NFTs or space you want to connect is just the number of exits on your space. And I think that just made it a much cleaner design. And honestly, even more importantly, in some ways, what we found is that people would deck out their rooms with all this cool stuff, and then they'd have to stick a forge in the corner. And sometimes people are like, well, I mean, I gotta craft, I gotta do stuff, so they would slot their forge into these sockets, and that just didn't feel good either. Because like nothing worse than being like, welcome to my awesome, my man cave, and I've got this like awesome awesome bed, and here's this giant TV, and look at this like wall of swords I have, and don't ignore the forge in the corner. That's for me crafting things. And
Right.
instead, it's just like, if that separates out that sort of that framework. So now players can be like, okay, here's my cool space. Everyone can hang out. And if you want to go through that room, you can see my forge and my armory. But that's a completely separate space. We found that in our playtest, most of the people did not like the idea of kind of like, call it, corrupting their space that they were trying to build for the purposes of maximizing their utility NFTs.
Yep.
So with the new foraging concept, you have more room to customize now with your space. Like, you can
Exactly.
do more with your own. Like, this is my space. I'm gonna do with it what I want to, and then I'm gonna strap some stuff to the outside. I like that. I guess it's
Yeah.
for a similar reason. It's probably why there's no open bathroom floor plans in houses and stuff. Like, you kind of need a separate room for that thing, as opposed to just having the old commode out in the middle of the way.
Yep.
That's kind of the metaphor
Exactly.
I'm sticking
So,
with.
so let me get to a couple of questions that's coming through
Yeah.
Twitch, and I'll just start rapid firing those. And if if Brian, we're not there to answer, just say that. Okay. So Aceman86 is asking, so it makes sense to buy Exalted Large Spaces now because they can host all rarities. I mean,
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, I think the idea is that if you want to min-max your space and make sure that you're maximizing what you can craft, then Exalted Large is the best, because you have 5 exits, so you can attach 5 utility NFTs, and you can attach your Exalted forges and armories and time wardens onto it. And on top of that, you have flexibility where you don't have to attach 5 exalted forges. If you happen to have a mythic or legendary, and you don't want to buy another exalted, you can attach that, right? So it gives you the maximum flexibility in both in terms of number of exits and in terms of the rarities you can attach to it.
Okay, and then somebody answered a question right after that, which I think makes sense. What's the difference between a legendary Time Warden and a rare Time Warden?
So we don't have all the details yet. Obviously, what I can say is it's better. At a high level, what we kind of know is that when it comes to our crafting systems, things like you can, for a Time Warden, it could fill up or create hourglasses more quickly. Higher rarity Time Wardens can create higher rarity hourglasses. So those are the general idea of like why you would of course want higher rarity utility NFT rooms, because they will have additional functionality and they will just be more efficient in general. Almost surely they will be faster. And when it comes to like the crafting side of the game, obviously higher rarities will be needed to craft the higher rarity NFTs that you'll ultimately want to be making to put into the economy.
Right.
Yeah. I think it would be just I might just jump in here real quick and say the purpose of our AMA today is really to talk about space and sockets. It's not the entire economy rollout. That's coming actually pretty soon. It'll probably be
Very
next time
soon.
we host one of those things. We're going to talk about a lot of the questions that people are asking, like drop rates. What's the difference between a large or a rare Time Warden and an exalted one? That stuff is going to come. But like the focus of today was mostly on sockets. So if we don't answer your question, just realize like it's coming soon.
Yeah, we'll let them know. Utility space only has one connection, though why only one? Because it's not meant to compete with space. It has its own specific utility. That's why it has one connection that you can connect to space. Hope that's clear enough. Let's see what else we got. Looking down with Army Forge, can you only craft? Yeah, we're not going into details on that just yet.
I think I see one here from Gushi. Gushi 2031, for example, you have legendary space, only legendary forge armor and Time Warden is allowed in that space. That is incorrect. If you have a legendary space, you can connect rare, epic, and legendary utility NFTs. So that is incorrect. You have a ton of options with the legendary option.
Question: are there going to be NFTs with a higher rarity than legendary, other than spaces, of course, since Time Warden and all mystery boxes can be of a rarity up to exalted?
Yes. Yes, you can. So our mystery boxes, and we're still finalizing the drop rate on some of our newer mystery boxes, but the idea is that you can have both mystery boxes will have utility NFT rooms that are higher rarity than legendary, and we are still trying to finalize. But the idea is that we will have rarity levels higher than exalted, and right now, because this is another benefit for exalted space. Right now, because exalted is the highest level space, then exalted will be the only space rarity that can attach these
Higher than
called super
exalted.
rare,
Yeah.
higher than exalted rarity NFTs. And of course, these are incredibly rare, so I wouldn't expect like every single person to be able to get these. But for the rarities higher than exalted, only exalted space can attach these like higher than exalted rare utility NFT rooms.
Excellent. Okay, just to clarify what you said, Buck, are you saying that each space will have one connection, dedicated connection to other space? No. I'm saying the utility, the Time Warden, the Forge and Armory, and if there's any other beyond that, they're only going to have one connection that they then connect to a space, right? So as you
Yes.
see, if you see right in the image behind me, you've got 3 of them connected to a space that has 4 that has four connections. I don't know what space that is yet because that didn't fit the list you gave, Brian. But you get the idea.
Yeah, there probably should be 5, but yeah, the idea is that exits are always exits are, think of them as connections, but whatever we call them, they are what you use to connect rooms to rooms, and spaces are effectively a type of room. So you would use a exit to connect another space if you want to kind of like just branch out, or you can use exits to connect your utility NFT rooms. But in either situation, even if you're using one of your exits to connect space, you still have more equal, at least equal or more spots to connect your utility NFTs than you did under the socket model, and you just have way more flexibility in terms of not filling your space with a bunch of forges that you didn't necessarily want when you could have put in all these awesome decoration NFTs that we have in store.
Exalted Small has two uh, connections, just like every other small.
Yes.
Okay, can you join spaces with the friend spaces and not just grant permission? I don't think we're there to discuss it yet, are we, Brian?
Do you mind if
No, I think it's an interesting idea. We've definitely discussed things like that, but we're not. We haven't really prototyped like exactly how that would work yet. But we do like the idea of being able to um, join, whether directly or maybe just through some like abstraction. Like I like we all like the idea.
Loco Colo asks, will you will be able to change your utility NFT room if, for example, you buy a better fortune? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
You can do
Think of it as just it's like a Lego block. You can pick it up anytime you want and put it back in your inventory and stick on the better one if you want.
Can we get an answer to what one? Why didn't you say you can't find utility NFTs anymore through regular gameplay if Big Economy says other? So I want to be sure. I'll have to check that afterwards. They dropped 4 specific passes. Although
Yes.
there is maybe a sale coming up that hashtag leak. Can we talk
I
about
think
that there, Brian?
Well, we're still finalizing the details, but we are going to be offering some brand new mystery boxes that will enable players to not just not just get any a specific Time Warden or Armory or Forge NFT room, but instead have the ability to get any of these Time Warden, Forge, or Armory NFT rooms in these boxes. And on top of that, these boxes were going to be the only way in the short term where players can get exalted utility NFT rooms during this early access period.
Yep. And is
The
there
full details to come.
yeah is there any incentive for having lower rarity space? Like not everybody's going to be able to obtain these. The high rarity ones are going to be more rare. Like
Yeah.
not
I mean,
easy
I
to
think
get.
yes, and I think like it's just like anything. It's about how players want to kind of customize and min max. There's benefits to having kind of the lower rarity spaces so you can connect the be more efficient about connecting and attaching the lower rarity utility NFT rooms to create lower rarity NFTs that will be the building blocks for how you would craft the higher rarity NFTs in the future. So of course if I had infinite money then I should just buy the most expensive everything, right? And that is 100% true. There's no way around that. But the reality is, like, given that everyone has limited resources, I would hope that there's ways to min max by using a mix of lower rarity spaces and higher rarity spaces and smaller, lower size or smaller size spaces and larger size spaces. And we leave it up to the players to theorycraft and figure out what is the best for them. But the reality is we wanted to create a little bit of flexibility where there is some theory crafting around. Oh, I only have X dollars to spend, or I only have so many space that I can allocate. How can I best optimize my personal metaverse for that?
All right, and we've got
I see a couple questions in here too. We have not released formal information that says you cannot find utility NFTs inside the game with gameplay. So that is, I'm not sure where that kind of came about, but that is not an official big time position. So I'm not sure where that is, but I've seen a few questions come across that way.
Are you referring to just in general utility NFT rooms, or are you talking about the utility NFT loot boxes, that mystery loot boxes that we've been dropping during early access? Because I
Either
don't
one.
think we've So I don't think we've outlined whether we would drop utility
Yeah.
NFT rooms
Yeah.
during the game, just because they don't exist in game yet.
Yeah.
But when we launch it, I believe the plan would be that unknown, of course, what the drop rate would be, but there is a way to get utility NFT rooms in game. How we have the mechanism to do that is
Yeah.
still to be determined. It might be as simple as just it's just another NFT drop.
Yeah.
Might go through like the fragment system. It might
Yeah.
be something completely new. But I definitely don't think we've
Yeah.
identified or finalized one way or another whether utility NFTs themselves would drop in game. But I'm confident that we are going to find a way to do that so that it isn't completely
Great.
only held back to having to buy your entire set of utility NFTs on the marketplace.
I like that, and if it's okay, I wanna, because I'm still seeing some chats and like questions come across. People are keep asking, and I want to say it. I'll keep repeating it as much as necessary. We have not said that utility NFTs will not drop. That is,
Yes.
may have been said
Yeah,
somewhere else, but that is not the case. So we are here to dispel that rumor, and I
Yes,
think that is important for people to
That's
understand.
really important if people
Yeah.
think that, because we have definitely not, and in fact, I'm confident that we are going to drop utility NFTs in some way, shape, or form in the game. I think potentially because we're not dropping by design. We'd already announced that we aren't dropping the loot boxes anymore. Maybe that turned into that's it, no more utility NFTs ever.
No more
And
loot boxes for
that is-
you.
Yeah, and that is not the case. Like we'll always have the option, as long as we have any in supply, to drop utility NFTs, utility NFT loot boxes, other loot boxes, in the future, space as needed in the future. All of these things are options for us.
Decorations. We did say that decorations would be dropping as NFTs.
Yeah,
Hashtag
decorations would definitely be
hashtag
dropping as a
hashtag Brian leaks.
Here's another question, because I'm very committed to not dodging the hard questions that come out in this AMA, and I've seen a few people ask in here, "Hey, I bought an Exalted Sol space that had, I think it was like 8 sockets attached to it, and you're now telling me it's got the same number of exits as a small rare." Here is what I wish we could go into more detail, but will come soon. Is that there are still a ton of benefits to getting a more rare space. So if you have a more rare space, there are certain features, from the token collection to the crafting and the upgrading, that come only with a more rare version of the space. So if people are like, "Hey, I can't attach as many things to my Exalted Small as I initially thought," we understand, we hear you. What I am saying is you can still do way more with the Exalted space. Unfortunately, I just can't tell you the details right now, but it is coming. We do hear you on that one, though. Brian, do you have anyone to jump in on that?
Yes, I absolutely. So we also, and in fact, obviously, because we kind of spreadsheet and mathed all this out, and we saw the same thing that a lot of people saw around specifically the Exalted Small Space. And I'm not dodging. I'm not trying to say like dodge this question at all. It 100% is true that now an Exalted Small Space effectively has the same number of exits as a rare small space. But I think what people really need to understand is, because we also see this, we know, and we are committed to already. There are way more benefits to owning Exalted Space over owning Rare Space. So take solace in that, but also take solace in that we know that we see the same thing, that Exalted Rare Space is, or Exalted Small Space is the one that does not get a big boost in exits compared to a lot of the others. But to that point, we already are planning on making Exalted Spaces way more valuable, to the point where players are going to be like, "Oh yes, I totally see why we want Exalted Space." In addition to all of the things that I already mentioned around, like, well, the only way you can attach Exalted utility NFTs is by having Exalted Space. So there's already a benefit on that front, but also there can be additional benefits that we are going to be sharing in the near future around why Exalted Spaces are so great.
I love that. I think one of the things that has resonated throughout everything that you have said, and we have said throughout this AMA, is that we put the player first. Whenever the coin could kind of flip on one way of like, what do we do, what is best for the player and the community, or if we do what is best for us at Big Time, we went with the player, and that through the testing, we found that this is better for the player, and that's why we went with this model. So in the long run, this is going to more benefit the community.
Yeah, definitely. We when we play test, we 100% are saying what feels right, what plays better. We do not at all care about like, oh, like what what how do we maximize socket math for our economy? Like that's not how we do things. Like the playtest was literally things like, well, this doesn't feel good for the player when they fill up their spot with their cool room with a forge. This doesn't feel good for the player, and we always orient towards that. And we want to build the best game possible, and we want to be mindful of like when we make big changes like that. At the end of the day, we looked and we were saying, okay, so how much extra, how many extra exits is every space type going to have? And for the most part, by and large, it's all going to be a positive boost. But we know that this exalted small is going to be at basically net zero, and we basically are saying, well, then we need to address that, and that's why we're already hard at work trying to find out even or come up with even more ways to make to fulfill that promise to our players that no, exalted space is of course the best because that's why it's so valuable.
Well, legendary space looked different to exalted visually. Mordecai, up up.
Yes, so we are also designing space visually will have differences, so it should be clear that like rare space is not as visually appealing as a legendary space, which is not as visually appealing as a exalted space. So, I think that definitely is going to be obviously noticeable for players, and I think that for players who really get into the sort of decorating aspect and the showing off your space aspect, they would of course want exalted space. Oh, and I actually forgot to mention it much like you can only attach exalted uh, utility NFTs to uh, exalted space. Um, different decoration NFTs. Not all, but there will be a certain subset of decoration NFTs that have minimum rarity requirements. Because if you get this super awesome Giant's God's Eye statue, um, we don't want to say, oh, you can just stick it in your rare space. It might have a rarity minimum requirement of legendary or even potentially exalted. And that's yet another way to add value to owning these higher rarity spaces, because if you get this amazing decoration NFT that you really want to showcase, and you happen to have an exalted space, well, that exalted space can pretty much take any decoration NFT because there's not going to be a minimum rarity higher than exalted. So that exalted space can basically you can slot in or drop in any decoration NFT you want in the game.
Like an exalted shiny throne of looting, which you all know I will have. We have another one here, just to re-emphasize what you'd said earlier. They're asking, how do you get the accessories to decorate your space?
You can find them in game, or you can craft them using our just using the crafting system, which we will. I promise you, we will share all those details for you
Soon.
when it's ready. We just don't want to. We found that it's always better to provide all the correct information up front, and we don't want to ever have to like walk back information. So we want to make sure all of our numbers and everything is fully hardened and baked and bulletproof before we share that. I would get into some of the details, but I'd rather get into all of the details soon rather than some of the details now and say, actually, we tried that, we play tested that, and we changed our minds. Fun.
Let's see here. What is this? Does the rarity in space determine how high you can craft or forge the rarity of the NFT room?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I gotta reread it. So does the rarity of the space determine how high you can craft or forge, or the rarity of the NFT room?
Oh, just the rarity of the NFT room. So I mean, it ends up being the same, but because you can only attach that rarity or lower to your space. But what drives what you can ultimately craft is the rarity of the NFT room. So if you have a legendary forge you can craft items that are of legendary quality or lower. Um, and if you have a rare forge, you can craft items of a rare quality or lower. Um, but that being said, like I said, it's not as if rare items are just throwaway. The way our crafting system works, rare items will be an incredibly valuable input into the crafting economy as a whole. So there's not going to be a single NFT that is going to be kind of wasted.
Okay, and then a good question from King here asking, are there going to be non NFT direct decorations, or are they only all NFTs?
That's a good question. I think we've kind of gone back and forth. We're going to start with mostly NFT decorations, just to make it so, because otherwise, if they're non NFTs, they're not tradable on our marketplace. They're kind of tied to the player, and we might do. This is Do not hold me to this, but I will tell you some ideas that we've been kicking around. Is like we might consider doing that as some more like exclusive items for players. But again, then you wouldn't be able to sell it because it's not an NFT. But it would just be more, celebratory for different stages of the game. And then it becomes a question of like, well, then why don't we make an NFT so people can buy them and sell them? That's the sort of level we've been thinking about. So it's definitely a thing that's under consideration, and we don't know one way or another yet.
Yep, and then Super Cello just asked, can the decorations I get be sold on the big time market? Yep.
Yep, absolutely. All NFTs can be sold on the big marketplace. So as long as they're NFT, they can be sold.
Date for Space Owner early access. We don't have that yet. Let's go. Can we put a Vendroid in our space? I mean, have we talked? Have we gotten any further? I know there's supposed to be storage in space eventually, but not the first pass. Or am I wrong there?
Yeah. I don't think in the first pass yet, but it's definitely something that we can think about as well.
Kingsman gifting tier one subs. What? Kingsman go. Thank you, Kingsman Esport or Kingsman Esport. My bad. Called him an escort. That's really uncomfortable. My bad. Well, any NFTs have a kind of power up for in game. More on that soon. Do we get free bots in our spaces? Why are you guys just trying to get all free stuff now?
I definitely think it's something we've thought about. I think I love these AMAs because it's also maybe come up with some ideas. We're like, yeah, that's great. We should do that.
Right. Are you going to be able to rent out your space? How would that work? Yes, we're not there to discuss that. I don't know if you could say anything about it at all, Brian, but
I can say it's absolutely something we want to do. The economics and how to do it and just the technical challenges are, of course, going to take a lot of thought and work, but it is on our radar is the best way I can put it. Is like something we are absolutely considering.
check me, bro, please. Okay, I'm checking you. Stop telling people to stop calling the items NFT just because they're off chain doesn't mean they're not NFTs. So there. Mike. Silence. Will we be able to bring in our NFT mounts into our space? Oh, look at Sneaky trying to be sneaky. You like how he did that? Are we going to be able to have our NFT mounts that you haven't confirmed in our space?
Most likely, if you can bring your character in, you can bring in a unannounced mount that may or may not exist.
Does rank affect NFT drop rate? Seems to for most of us. That is not true.
I'm pretty sure that is not true.
That is not true. The other day, I was in I was waiting for a group, and I was running around in a level 1 to 8, I think, and I got an NFT. So, well, and that's level. Rank does not affect the drop rate. And also, contrary to some people's conspiracy theories, having a low-level person in your group does not negatively impact your drop rate if you're the higher level people. We won't mention names. Can I visit Buck's space and see how much shiny he actually has? It's kind of sus. You know I'm going to have shiny in my space, dude. Let's see. Need to implement a swimming pool. Don't call NFT something that's not. Oh, shush. Will space utilities be sold as mystery boxes? Will they be sold as specific rarity like space? They won't be sold at specific rarity. What are the prices? More to come. And Brian, just you want to just mention that again? What you had said about the sale?
Yeah, so we're not going to do individual utility NFT sales where every single utility NFT is available for sale, of every rarity is available for sale. What we're initially going to start with is a mystery box that offers the players the ability to get a utility NFT of a range of rarities. With this next sale that we're going to be announcing probably in the next couple weeks.
Excellent. Let's see, get some more in here. What chain can I store my space to store? Let's see here. Will Pocket Watches ever be NFTs? It makes sense to be able to sell that. No, we're not going to do Pocket Watch NFTs, homie. Like being able to sell characters? I don't think so. Can we visit people's spaces?
Yes, that is the plan. It probably won't be initial launch that you can do that, but the plan ultimately is, of course, to make spaces a cool place for you to both just hang out and also have your friends hang out with you.
I have a follow-up question to that. If there's somebody who's annoying me, King Baron, and they want to come to my space, can I like have a list that makes them like fall in a dungeon or something?
I don't think you could actually make them fall in the dungeon, but you can absolutely ban and kick out people in your space that annoy you. If we enabled the ability to have friends come into your space, we of course would also have all of the tools to allow you to kick people out of your space, just like you can kick people out of your house if they're not being good house guests.
Who here votes that we should have traps for our friends in our space and people? Let Brian know right now.
Trap that leads into a shark-infested pool.
Boom! I love how you think. You heard it here. NFT shark-infested pool. That'd be funny as heck. People come into your space and they're like trying to get some benefit about coming to your space, and they're like, "What's that over there?" And it's all shark with laser beams.
I was gonna say you gotta put the lasers on them, right?
With freaking laser beams. Right. NFT traps. I like. See, there's a good idea right there. You just said that. Ideas
Writing
coming
it
up.
I'm gonna log that. Yeah, I'm logging it. I'm on
Good
it.
idea.
When update? Update this week. As far as I know, unless something goes wrong, update this week. Just call me Born. Let's see. Yes, please, pitfall traps. I like how you're thinking, Sneaky. +1 to traps. Okay, we got traps as a thing that people like. Okay, is there a new instant dungeons coming or mini game dungeons? What's an instant dungeon? I don't know what that is. There's a new dungeon coming called the Warp Tile Set with the Warp Tile Set. Where are we calling it? Warp Dungeon? I think we're calling it the Warp Dungeon. Really cool.
No, I think that was just a prototype name. We'll have a different one for it.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. Yeah, I was all ignorant of that.
It's a cool name though. I mean, it definitely stuck internally. We still call it Warp Dungeon. So
Okay. Will there be any daily quest only available in our spaces? There will be daily quest. Are there going to be ones that are only available in the spaces? I like your.
I don't think it's in the space, but daily quest will definitely be coming.
Yeah, I like the idea of having people have to go to other people, or benefiting from visiting other people's space. So, like, definitely not out of the question, right, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. How does guild space work? We don't have that information yet, or do we, Brian? And you just haven't told me.
No, that it's too early to. We definitely are thinking about it, but it's too early to discuss exactly how that's going to work. Like we're iterating on it.
Okay, check me, bro, please. Buck, simple question. Do you know NFT definition at all? Non-fungible token. Okay, thank you for that. Next. Okay, can you please just concern with drawing space on chain? When are we going to be able to do the NFTs on chain? Is it something we have settled or anything yet?
We don't have a date yet, but it's definitely happening sooner rather than later for all the reasons that people have talked about. Is that in order to really kind of open up that ecosystem, you have to have the ability to withdraw from our ecosystem onto chain, and that is definitely going to be part of our plans.
Excellent. Wait, another guild space question. The only difference between. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that real quick. It's not just to not mince words, is that it's not just part of our plans. It's been an inherent design principle in this whole thing. I mean, obviously, a game on an NFT platform, it's all about NFTs, which is getting items on chain and transfer. All that is actively being worked on.
Okay. Doug, while you're answering question, Jetraz wants to know, when is PvP activate? Question mark, question mark.
No. No date on that yet, though. That is cool. I think it's neat to always kind of go toe to toe with somebody. In fact, I think it was New World, right, that had like a challenge or duel option for even PvE centered players to kind of go up against somebody else, and I always personally thought that was really neat. So, yeah.
Can we expect the game by December of 2025? We already have a game right now. What are you talking about? I'm being intentionally obtuse there. Will tokens in the future drop like NFTs or gold? That's a little bit more on the economy side that we'll be getting into more later. Will the update bring graphics optimization? Always. Graphic optimizations are always happening. Are there any planned other ways to obtain gold for lower levels encrypted items are kind of a pain in the butts. So, hashtag leaks. Doug, can you talk about what might be happening in the next, not this release, but the next release? Because I saw a little something.
Trying to put me on the spot.
I could leak for you, but then I'd be having all the fun.
No, go ahead. Yeah, I don't.
Okay. Okay, I saw that there was a change slated that the gold penalty was going to be heavily reduced for any players under 20.
Yeah, and let me kind of hinge off of that just to say that we've had a lot of players go into our forums and putting in bugs and suggestions, and that's always the preferred place to of course send us all that information. We actively log all of that and review it constantly, and are working on lots of changes as a result of that. And one of the things that's come up quite a few times has been the death penalty in general. And so we want death to matter, but we want it to matter in the right ways. Anytime that a player starts feeling like they're being overly punished, or a new player being kept down by kind of learning the game, learning the mechanics, and suddenly find that they can't buy anything because they're out of gold because they haven't figured the game out yet and they keep dying. I mean, we're going to look to balance and tune all those types of things. You know, this is the whole point of kind of being in early access right now, is to put out changes, see how they land, get this type of feedback with folks via our forums, via Discord, other communication channels, you know, and just continue to refine and make it the best game experience that we can. And so, yeah, certainly the gold penalty has been discussed a lot, and there are some changes coming to that.
People are asking, are there any plans for large-scale raids, 10 plus people, or world bosses? You can
definitely, definitely on our roadmap as well, but not in the near short term. I think there's so many cool features that are obviously we all love from all the games we've been playing over the years. And right now we just have to figure out how to get them all into the game. And it's believe me, it's like choosing between my kids sometimes, where I'm like, I really want this feature, but I gotta get this in first and gotta get that in first, and we're working hard to make sure we get everything.
Which feature is your favorite? If they're like your kid.
Well, much like my kids, I don't have a favorite feature.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I'll tell you that just to kind of elaborate on that is I think all of us as gamers, and Brian made a great point, is I mean, we've been in this industry, we love games, obviously we play all these games, and anytime that there's a combat or kind of boss mechanic that lets you work together as a team, figure out different strategies, use abilities and weapons in different ways, and kind of be challenged by different encounters. that's fun, and so we're actively working on a lot of kind of enemy and boss AI to try to really capture those types of dynamics. And so what you're seeing right now is still very much just the beginnings. And I've said that a lot when I've talked in the past, is that there's still so much yet to come. And sometimes I wish we could just peel back, open the curtain to everything that we're doing back here. And but again, as Brian had mentioned, it's like, we want to make sure that we're being intentional about the changes that we're making, that they're going to work, be positive, and then be able to discuss and announce those things. So in time.
I'm getting a couple questions on space. So do you have to connect your space to another one, or can you have standalone space and fill up all those exits with utility NFTs?
You ultimately have to attach a space, so space almost has to take up one slot, and we did that. I mean, rather, we counted our exits very intentionally so that even if expanding your personal metaverse beyond kind of like one space, you still have more utility NFT exits to use, even taking into account that you always needed to save one to attach additional space. But I also say this: if you just wanted a single space, you could also just leaf out and put a bunch of utility NFTs and not use any additional space. But if you want to continue to expand your personal metaverse, then you would need to attach space to space and take up one of those exits.
So it is possible to have, like, if I've got 10 small rares, I could just surround every one of those and have 10 totally separate spaces with utility NFTs bolted into each one, but my overall space is not gonna really get bigger. It's just gonna be a series of
No, I'm saying
rooms.
you can't float.
Okay.
You
Got
can't
it.
float 10 small space. The way it's going to work is that you have a starting room, and basically you can attach a space of any rarity to that starting room, and from there you branch out. And that's just like, think of it as like, that's when you build your dungeon out. But you can't drop a small space in like the middle of nowhere and just like put onto utility NFTs. So you always have to attach a space to something.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Jetraz is going after the PvP. I think we should test it early and just let employees of big time go in dungeons as like bosses or something and play against the players. I think that'd be fun. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'd be curious if there's a suggestion there, if anybody has things they'd really like to see, please do log those in our forums so that with as much description and examples or references to other games that maybe you've really enjoyed where they've had a mechanic you've liked, we'd love to see all those. So.
Boop. Fauna as pets in space, Vendroid shops in space. Miss 369 fam. What do you think, Brian? Fauna as pets in space?
Yeah, I think that the beauty of space is there's just so much flexibility, and now that we've kind of taken out the utility NFT rooms from being put in the space, we're just giving our players more, pardon the pun, space in their space to put all kinds of cool stuff. So absolutely, because there's more space to put space, I'm gonna have to keep saying it that way, I guess. But because there's the ability to do that, we're going to continue to add more and more decorations that can fill that area.
All right. So we have. Are there going to be any future benefits planned for past gold, silver, and jade pass holders, or it is all equal benefit from here?
It's definitely something we've talked about. I don't think this is not a hashtag leaks that we're 100% confirmed that we are doing that, but we do want to be mindful of all our loyal gold, jade, silver pass players. So nothing to formally announce, but it's something that we're still thinking about.
And just in case you guys want to start throwing out conspiracy theories, he did not name them in out of order on purpose.
I
like, see, he said, yeah, like, he said silver after jade. Jade got more. Spaces will drop again, Brian. I think you already answered that, but people popping in.
Yes, yes. Eventually, we're constantly tuning things and changing things, but like space will eventually drop again.
Okay. Boop, boop, boop. Are there any plan for NFT collections? If you got the whole collection, can you get a specific something something?
Yes, there are plans that is on our roadmap as well.
Hashtag
I don't
leaks.
I can't say when
Hashtag
because
leak.
again that's the type of thing that we want to do, but it requires a lot of design work to make sure it makes sense, and what we're doing makes sense because there are a lot of different ways we can go down that path. Is it you get a bonus thing? Is it it just like changes the look? Like there's just so many things we've talked about, so we don't want to do it until we have a really well thought out design for it.
Boom. That's such a good question, or a good answer to that question. Will the artifact fragment system be upgraded? Seems more of a hassle than something good.
I don't think it's currently on our like short term because it serves the purpose that we kind of want it to serve, but it's obviously just like any feature in the game. As we kind of revisit, we'll want to change things. We will.
I'm making faces like yes, it will be. It are actually the rewards for artifact fragments have already been increased,
Yes, they
and
have.
for this upcoming patch. So
Yeah.
a lot of times, just to make clear, a lot of times, oh, that's fixed. We're not talking about in live, like we're talking about that's been fixed on the dev server and will be in the upcoming patch. So yes, and there's a lot of different things when like my simple fix for things like that is just increase the rarity, but I tend to live in the gray, whereas our dev team is pretty awesome. They're like, we're not doing something lazy like that. So they're going to be making things more interesting. There's a possibility that you could be seeing, some affixes that are only available there, maybe. So just keep an eye out for that when the patch goes. Let's see, how many people would be very high difficult raid possible? 20. Probably a bigger question than we can answer. Doug, do you have any?
No, not not
Okay.
on raids yet. I mean, yeah, we're still focused on really targeting full groups of 6. Maybe down to 4 or so, and trying to really create the best experience possible at those levels, and then we'll kind of branch out from there. But I think it's always cool when you can have I think it was maybe Destiny that at one point had a bug where you could time matchmaking to get I don't even think there was a limit on it. I mean, I saw some pictures and had been a part of some things where I think there were 20, 30 people in a raid, and I think Bungie might have left that open a little while because it was just such a cool experience.
Right.
So if we could ever pull off something where there was an ability to get lots of people into a place to kind of do a thing, that's again, I mean, that's cool. But we'll see.
So there's a couple that
So,
I've seen ask. One is, does owning space give you access to exclusive adventures and NFTs?
not owning space specifically, but there are going to be exclusive things that are tied to our game economy and our token economy, but that is still being fleshed out.
And then the other one was, what if you upgrade a NFT? Does it burn the NFT?
Yes, or rather, it goes back into supply as part of the as an additional NFT that can be used to upgrade. But eventually, because all NFTs have a issuance max at the top end, once they've all been created, then no one can create anymore.
What are the penalties in a group to nullify and/or nerf the NFT drop? I mean, so you're asking about the NFT algorithm, and first rule of NFT Club is we don't talk about NFT Club. The basics are make sure you're batting at your weight. Don't you'd expect to be level 30 running around a level 1 dungeon and having things drop. I'm not saying that they wouldn't, but it's against, like you're supposed to be playing the game right. That's the way to do it. Have a 6-person party. Make sure you're in range. right? Don't be one of those people that just slinks out of range and doesn't help the party. We're working on party tools to help eliminate people like that. And you know, like I forget what it was that I killed that gave me an NFT when I was level 1 to 8, but it wasn't a boss. So keep that in mind. All right, let's see here. Binance. Oh, people have been asking about the postcards. I have zero context on the postcards from Binance. Brian, do you know anything about that?
Yeah, well, we're working on, as we speak, we're working on the wearable NFTs that you're going to be receiving if you've collected all of the postcards. So stay tuned on that. We don't have the final answer on that, but it is we didn't forget you. If you spent all that time to collect all of the postcards, you will be getting your reward.
Thundar, the barbarian, wants to talk about space. All good, Thundar. If I have a rare forge and place a legendary space in a legendary space, can I craft rare NFTs or legendary NFTs?
If you have a what?
Rare forge in a legendary
a
space.
rare forge?
It cares about the rarity of your forge.
It only cares about the rarity of the forge, so you can craft rare NFTs. The benefit of having a legendary space, though, is that you have that flexibility where you can, let's say you only will have a rare forge, you attach it, and then later you find a legendary forge, then you can stick that on instead without having to kind of reconfigure or buy new space or do all these changes. That's the sort of flexibility that the legendary space will provide.
We're not giving out that information, Kudo. I appreciate your tenacity in trying. When we get a price list of utility NFTs, can you tell us, Leak, how? Well, guys, just hang tight for more information on that sale, which is coming. Can I have
and again, just reiterate, we're not selling individual utility NFTs even in that sale, so we wouldn't have a price, and we're not planning on in the short term at least doing sort of these like individual sales on specific rarity NFTs, specific rarity utility NFTs.
What will the timeline have specific dates? Specific dates aren't necessarily a thing in the games industry. We'll have timelines that we're trying to hit, and we'll have, as soon as I have them, you guys will have them. How about that? Let's see. Have you guys solved for small spaces connecting to starter space and getting no utility exits? Does starter room have more than one exit?
Sorry, can you
I think that the challenge is, like, if you connect your small space, you're giving up one of the exit, and now you only have one utility.
Oh, okay. So this is where I'm going to have to explain this and hope you can all understand this. So a small space will have two exits, but it will also have an entrance. And how entrances work is it's essentially the extra thing that connects to an exit. So think of it as like male-female plugs or magnets where you can't put like a male and a male plug or a female and a female plug. So every space will have their two exits, or every small space will have their two exits, which you can attach utility NFTs, but will also have an entrance. And there will be some infographics we can share that will make this a little bit more clear. And the entrance is what you attach to your starter room or even your other space. So you're never using up an like that
Your
entrance
utility
is like
connection, you're just using up the connection.
Yeah. So
All
you
right.
are using up an exit when you're attaching a space to a space, but you're not using up, for lack of a better word, you're not using up two exits. You're connecting an exit from one space to an entrance of another space. And then you still have, for example, in your small space, let me put it this way. Let's say I had a small and a small. I would attach one of my small exits to my second small's entrance, and then my second small still has its two exits. You're not burning one of your two exits on your small, so you'll still have two to attach off of that second exit. That is very hard for me to explain. I hope you guys understood this, but if you didn't, we do have, or we will be sharing some infographics that will hopefully make that more clear. But just so I make it clear, it's like if I say I have 5 exits, yes, that means you can attach 5 utility NFTs to it, and yes, that means you can also attach 5 space to it. But if you do, you're not eating an exit from those space you attached. You're eating the entrance from the space you attach, and all space will have an entrance.
So here's one. Will exalted NFTs become a thing, or legendary is the highest rarity?
No, absolutely. Exalted and mythic, exalted, and even higher NFTs will become a thing, and they are going to be very cool.
Yes. More shiny. All right. Let's see here. We are a little bit over time, so we'll answer a couple more, and then that'll be it. Is there going to be only one entry? Oh, or high rarity, half. Let's see here. Higher than exalted? Yes, higher than exalted. Why all gold, silver, jade players did not all get from I don't know what was promised. So, will tokens drop during invite-only beta? Will tokens be, I don't think so, right? Maybe?
No, but we'll get into the details of tokens
Okay.
on the next AMA most likely, and then I can answer all of the questions around that. But we still want to make sure that we have all of those details hammered out.
All right. Matt, do you have anything else you wanna add?
I got nothing. I got nothing.
You got something. Come on, I know you got something.
No, that's it.
You're a
I mean,
Matt
Brian,
DeVille guy. Doo-doo-doo.
Matt, or Brian, I should say. Like, I don't know, like how he's been doing it, but I feel like he's got to like drink some water and like ice after this because he's been going like a machine here for about 7 minutes. So.
I could do this for another hour. I'm just kidding, guys. Oh no, no, but
I didn't hear no bell, you know.
I appreciate all the questions. Honestly, any question here is helpful. Ideas always great as well. It helps us make sure that we know we're working on the right stuff. It sounds like the multiplayer, like the raids, are something that comes up a lot. And I can tell you, 40-man molten core raids are some of the highlights of my childhood. So I'm definitely an advocate for it. And I'm glad to see that others are excited about it as well. And I just want to reiterate, at the end of the day, we really, really focused on changing this design to make it better for players. Like, this was not at all a way to somehow go, like, how can we reduce sockets and reduce the number of exits, or reduce the number of utility NFTs. In fact, I think if you kind of do the math of it, pretty much with those exceptions on the exalted small that I mentioned, pretty much every single space will effectively be able to attach more utility NFTs than they could previously. So it's all positive to the players, and that's what we wanted, quite honestly. More utility NFTs for them to attach, and more surface area for them to drop their decoration NFTs, and that's what we wanted to do with this design, and I think we got it.
I would wholeheartedly agree, and a lot of that value added that you guys developed is going to come out with further releases of space when players can get in there and start setting up their space. So if we didn't answer all of your questions out there in the audience, just know it is a coming, and there is more to come. But we needed to address some of the more pressing questions on sockets, and there's been some good ones, and there's been some tough questions in here, but fair questions. So everybody else, thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. And now I will release these heroic participants unto the rest of their space and game making duties. And I am now hosting a giveaway, which we'll do the drawing at 4:30 p.m. So exclamation ticket once, please, in chat. Don't spam me, otherwise. Buck nudes. Who's throwing out buck nudes hashtag? That's nasty. I don't even want to see myself naked. All right. Thank you, Doug, again, and Brian and Matt for joining us and helping to put out all this information. Well, we're going to do it again. So this was a good first run for this crew.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much for
absolutely.
setting this up.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot. See ya.
Thanks for hosting. Talk soon.
Gotcha. Sneaky, where you at?